Welcome back, 0 to 60. Bri Maestas, Matt McChesney. Matt, I got to ask you real quickly before we get started in the top six for today. Did you see the possum for the TCU game?
You're damn right. I saw the possum, and you know what? They should have let him run. I'm mad at him for locking him down, but I'm proud of him for fighting back. He was clawing. They would not let him pull him out of there. That little possum's got some fight.
Honestly, the possum being dragged off of the end zone was me. Anytime there's a concert, it ends. There's no encore, and the security is trying to pull me off the floor. It felt very akin to a lot of my situations when I'm watching some live music. So I appreciate the possum.
That possum was rolling.
He was having a good time, and honestly, they should adopt him as the mascot and roll him out there every single week. Also, I don't know if you're familiar with The Simpsons, but there's an episode in which Homer is on I think it's the train or the monorail, and they find the possum family in the closet, and he names the big one Bitey. And honestly, last night was just one of the best moments in sports for me. I do appreciate when animals run across the field, but I'm always a little bit sad when they have to catch like a feral cat or a possum for this matter. But it was almost a year to the date in which a decade ago, there was a fox on TCU's field as well. So maybe the animal spirits, the omens are there. Couldn't tell you the end of the game. I didn't watch it. All I was there for was for the wildlife showing.
Yeah, the possum was probably more interesting than the game, to be completely honest with you, because Tech and TCU are both struggling.
Goodness. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good segue to get into. We'll do college football first. I just want to get into the matchups for the week. Then we'll talk some Thursday night football as well. But Matt, I'm going to give you one of my top college matchups for this week. I'm going to go number 13 LSU at number 8 Alabama, because Alabama looks like they're going to lock up the SEC West with a win here. LSU's inconsistent defensive front leaves a lot of room for a big run game, but I think there should be some trepidation there as Andre Sam will be lurking in the secondary. As always, this is going to be a must watch for college football fans, but is there a possibility you think this game could be a snooze fest if both teams find themselves in much of a defensive grind?
Well, yeah, these two hate each other. I mean, there's a huge rivalry here. This is usually for the division, and once again it is. The winner of this game is going to play the winner of the Georgia-Missouri game, I'd imagine, out of the East. So, you know, this Alabama team is, I think they're good. They're not great. Their quarterback's average. But they do have NFL players all over the field, and so does LSU. And LSU has Jaden Daniels, and they've lost a couple of games, but they also have won some games. So LSU is going to go in there with the mindset that the playoffs out, but they could just spoil the party and keep the entire SEC out of the playoffs if they can beat Alabama and figure out a way to get to the SEC title game and beat one of the two teams, the winner of Missouri or Georgia. You know, they're not letting a two-loss team into the college football playoff this year. I don't care. So LSU is trying to spoil a party, and Alabama is trying to have one. So I like Alabama in the game because they're in Tuscaloosa. And I think LSU does have holes defensively that Alabama will take advantage of up front for sure. So,
yeah, absolutely. Do you have a pick for top college football or game to watch?
But it would be Georgia, Missouri for me. I mean, look, that's the other side of the SEC, and Missouri has built their squad through recruiting, the transfer portal. They've done a great job. They are real. The Cook kid at quarterback will be a big-time draft pick coming up in the next couple of drafts. But going to Athens is different. I've been to a game in Athens before, and it's insane. And they are back-to-back national champions, and a lot of people are discrediting Georgia like they're just there. Like, you know, they're good, but we'll see. And I would imagine, if I had to guess, Missouri's going to walk into just an absolute hornet's nest and probably get the shit kicked out of them by Georgia, if I had to guess. But I would like to see Missouri go play well. Like, it'd be pretty cool to see a huge upset and kind of a changing of the guard in the SEC East. They've got the better quarterback, and sometimes that works, but Georgia's defense is loaded with first-round talent again, and I'd imagine they're going to get after Missouri pretty hard. So it's probably going to be Georgia, Alabama for the SEC title, and these two games determine that.
They do. The Bulldogs are 7th in scoring defense and 6th in points per game. Georgia, with a win here, can make a case for number 1 in the college football rankings. Do you think they pull it off?
They should be number 1. I understand that it's year by year, but they're back-to-back defending national champs that haven't lost in 2 years. And the fact that they put Ohio State before them and Georgia beat Ohio State last year in the playoff, it's like it wraps up into, as we close college football here, it wraps up into like the whole, reality show that is college football. Michigan's getting yelled at by the entire world, but Ohio State's number 1, but Georgia's the back-to-back national champions. They're number 2. It gives them something to bitch about. Florida State's undefeated at number 3. It's a quality program. They're perfectly content with that. There's just drama everywhere, and the media fuels it, and that's what sells tickets. So fuel that. Let's go. Let's burn some logs.
Burn some logs. Got it. My second game is going to be Kansas State at number 6, Texas. It's the big noon matchup this weekend. So Kansas State number 6. The Big 12 race is wide open. The Longhorns obviously continue their dominance last week, but the Wildcats also impressed with a shutout against Houston for their 3rd consecutive double-digit win. Who do you think takes this game? Because I'm not sure that you're not going to see a lot of at least a little bit of motivation to win here.
Look, I think Kansas State's going to go to Austin and win, and they're underdogs, obviously, but sleep on Kansas State and you get beat constantly. And they are scared of no one. That's a great football program. I was raving about them yesterday on DNVR Buffs. I was raving about them yesterday with Ryan Koenigsberg on our show. I mean, they're just a great program, and this is the last time they get Texas. And Texas and Kansas State have had some battles. And they've been rivals for a long time, and Texas hates playing this football team. So I want Kansas State to go win, and I hope Kansas State wins. I am not a fan of Texas. In fact, I despise them. So that's the future rival for the Colorado Buffaloes, in my opinion, too. So I want them at the top of their game, and they're defending Big 12 champs. So I'll take Kansas State at UT. I hope. Probably won't happen, but I hope.
Any other matchups that you're looking forward to?
The other one that I like is Washington at USC. I don't know how USC continues to hang around the top 25. I don't think they're very good. But Washington has the Heisman winner in Penix Jr. And, their offensive line is fortified with Dungeon Family guys. Roger Rosengarten's a Valor kid. He's a right tackle and probably a first-rounder, judging by the film that I've been seeing. And then Zach Henning from Grandview is another one of their guards and playing as a freshman. And I'm just partial to Washington getting to the playoffs. So I'm going to watch this game, and I hope they shit stomp SC. I think that things are bad in LA, and you're going to see Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams probably exit. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in LA moving forward.
Do you think that if USC's Caleb Williams has another kind of down showing, the narrative will shift even further and he could fall down those boards?
I mean, I think he's still going to be probably a top 3 pick, but you can't sit here and say that he hasn't screwed up the bona fide number 1 pick thing. Because even Penix Jr., I know he's a lefty and it kind of looks a little awkward, but that ball comes out like Michael Vick's throwing it. And go out and just dominate Caleb Williams in this game, and that says something to NFL GMs. So, look, GMs have a hard job anyway. And this next year, if you have to pick between Drake May, who looks like he was made in the lab, and Caleb Williams, who is just a freak on all levels and seems like he can do anything, and then Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. I mean, there's dudes everywhere that can play quarterback, which is good for the league because the quarterback position in the NFL right now is terrible.
It is terrible, but a lot of quarterbacks are getting their start. I want to talk about potential first-rounder Will Levis, who eventually fell down those boards, has gotten his start here in the NFL. And in back-to-back weeks, the Titans versus the Steelers for Thursday Night Football. Kenny Pickett was dealing with much of a rib injury last week, got the start on Thursday. Will Levis was back at the helm for the Titans. The Steelers are now second in the AFC West. And honestly, the Titans are on a 4 straight road loss slide. Are both quarterbacks proving themselves at this point in the season?
I think the Pittsburgh kind of won in spite of Kenny Pickett. And I think Levis kind of gave Tennessee a chance to win. It's 20-16 game. Tennessee had the ball late to finish. Look, Tennessee, the stat I saw last night was insane. Like 91 players in 2 years and 40 guys on IR or something. That is nuts. Mike Vrabel's not the problem. If Mike Vrabel gets fired, he's going to get hired by somebody immediately just to go somewhere else and turn their franchise around. The GM seems to be the problem, the guy who just traded A.J. Brown and traded Bird and like just keeps trading everybody. I mean, if I'm Mike Vrabel, I might want them to fire me so I can go somewhere else at this point. That said, Tennessee is still a smash mouth football team that's going to play hard. They fall to, I think they're 3-5 now. Pittsburgh improves. Their defense is going to carry them. Kenny Pickett made some throws, but he also, I mean, for God's sake, he made some terrible throws too. So, look, I think Pittsburgh and San Francisco are two teams that are just a quarterback away. If Kenny Pickett can figure out how to actually play quarterback in this league and be consistent, he's got targets, he's got weapons. Johnson's good, Pickett's good. I mean, they got dudes everywhere. So, again, if his little hands and little tiny hand Kenny Pickett can go do something productive, they might be able to maybe win a playoff game because they're pretty good, man. The AFC North is stacked.
It is. And up next for the Steelers, they have the Packers, Browns, Bengals, Cardinals. Do you think they can continue the momentum here with Kenny Pickett at the helm?
I mean, yeah, you try to go 4-0 in that stretch, at least 3-1. You know, Cincinnati's a good team. That's a toss-up, but the other three are very winnable. So it's just Mike Tomlin, man. He's never had a losing record. And Pittsburgh has had 4 head coaches in their entire franchise's history, and the Raiders have had 4 head coaches in 2 years. So shit's crazy out there.
We know that Pittsburgh has been, I guess, in poor spirits over the Kenny Pickett quarterbacking, but I think that he's honestly showing something here. The next 4 games, if you look at the NFL season in quarters, are going to be pretty important for what shakes out here. But Hall of Fame coach Mike Tomlin seems to have a pretty good grasp on what's going on. I'm glad that he was able to give Pickett that start there because it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. They're now second in their division. So I want to know where they want to go. I'm not a big Steelers fan, but I respect their coach so much for what he's been able to do. And let's get into the NFL news for week 9. The schedules, the standings. I want to open up with Kansas City versus Miami. They're the international game this week. They're going to be in Germany. You spent some time in Germany. We talked about that earlier this week. But how exciting is this game? Mike McDaniel had a press conference earlier this week, walked out on stage with his typical dry humor saying, I know I'm a lot larger in person, which was met with absolute crickets from the media there, which was hilarious to me because it's still funny. If you respect who Mike McDaniel is as a person, what are you looking forward to from this game? I think Hill is probably going to have a big game here, but I want to know what you think. Kansas City's offense has been not suffering, but it really has been on a downtrend. So I'm interested to see how this matchup shakes out.
Yeah, I'm going to take Miami in this one. I just think Tyreek Hill is going to be on a mission to make a point. Like, it's the first time they played. Frankfurt, that place is going to be rocking. I mean, I'd imagine they're playing at the same place I played at when I was with the Galaxy, and it was crazy. It was packed every week. They love their football there. I mean, down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL tries to do something again in Germany permanently rather than just playing games there. But this is a hell of a game for the international game. I mean, if you're in Europe or whatever and you want to see good football, this is a playoff game. Like, this could easily be the AFC title game for all we know. So, you know, that's the importance of this game as well. Does Miami want to go to Arrowhead in January? No. Does Kansas City want to go to Miami in January? No, I mean, they will, but still, it's going to be a good home field advantage for the Dolphins. So this is as big as it gets for a regular season game, and I just don't see Kansas City being able to cover Tyreek Hill. Now, that said, every time I seem to pick against Kansas City, with the exception of last week, they just make me look stupid and lose money betting. So they'll probably make me look stupid and lose money. they've lost a couple of games, and last week they got physically dominated, and they are the Super Bowl defending champions. So I think that Andy Reid will have them right, but I do like Miami in this game.
That's very good.
Who do you like?
I'm going to pick the Dolphins every single time. I can't root for Kansas City. I don't even think they're the better team here, specifically at this point in the season. I know they're defending champs. I know what they've done, but honestly, falling to the Broncos kind of changes a lot. I don't think you want to prove yourself at that point. You're not coming off just a hard loss. You're coming off a hard loss where you didn't score any touchdowns. To me, that's kind of spelling a disaster here. I don't know if Travis Kelce is at the point in which he was last year on Let's Talk Broncos. We were all
why not?
Nope. Last year for the damn it, Matt. Last year for Let's Talk Broncos, we were predicting that Kansas City was going to see a fall off of Travis Kelce. It didn't happen last season. In fact, it made us all look very silly. But now I think we're seeing a little more proof positive that the idea could be that Travis Kelce is slowing down, and it is not the threat that he is at tight end, at least for the time being. I know the minute I say that, he's going to bounce back and he's going to prove us all wrong, and Kansas City can make a run at the Super Bowl. But I'm really hoping not, because I can't stand them. You mentioned Cincinnati. I'm going to move on as quickly as possible so you can't get a word in edgewise. But the Bengals and Bills are going to be facing off on Sunday. It's in Cincinnati. Then obviously the Broncos are in Buffalo for the following game for week 10. Joe Burrow and the Bengals have been able to turn around what they thought was going to be a down season. Joe Burrow wasn't looking great. He was obviously injured, and now it looks like he's feeling more like himself. Who do you have in this game? Because Josh Allen, it waffles through a very roller coaster identity of good quarterback, bad quarterback, system quarterback. It's the team around him. No, it's Josh Allen carrying the Buffalo Bills. How do you feel about the Bills-Bengals matchup, and who do you think wins that one?
Well, remember the last time these two teams played in primetime, in the regular season, it was the Hamlin game. So that I'm eager to watch it. I mean, look, not only do you get to scout, I guarantee you every Bronco is going to be glued to the TV, and every Bronco fan will be too, to see how Buffalo plays on the road at Cincinnati before, again, hosting Monday Night Football next week with Denver going to Buffalo. So this is back-to-back showcase games for the Bills. And to think that they're going to lose back-to-back showcase games, I don't see that. So as a Bronco supporter here, I would like to see Buffalo go to Cincinnati and win this game and have some success. So they're riding high and feeling good about themselves, not all pissed off going into a long week against the Broncos. Now, that said, the Broncos are coming off a bye. Sean Payton off a bye is good. So, look, Buffalo has a ton to prove, man. I think the Bills are, once again, missing their window. Like, when you're up in the AFC title game on the road in Kansas City and they beat you, with crazy-ass plays, and then in overtime, that's a missed window, and then you miss an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. So that franchise knows everything about missing windows. I mean, that's their MO. They did it 4 years straight, and now they're doing it again. They're just good enough to get into the playoffs, but not good enough to win anything at this point. So what really needs to happen for Buffalo to pull out of this is what Cincinnati has. And Cincinnati can rush the passer and really get after you on defense. And Buffalo is, even with Von Miller, maybe Von's old at this point. And I hate to say that, but he doesn't seem like the dynamic player he's been. He's coming off injury. And they really need to pick it up in Buffalo, rushing the passer. Floyd's okay, but they've got some holes on defense, and they seem to get it taken to them a lot. So I'll take Buffalo on the road in this game. Just a feeling I have, but Cincinnati's pretty good, and they're playing pretty well.
I kind of need Cincinnati to perform here. I need Joe Burrow to get it together. But you made an interesting comment about Josh Allen, the Bills, that window. It seemed for the last 3 seasons that a lot of NFL fans in general have said this is the Bills' year. That time is running out. How much of that falls on the quarterback specifically when everything around him seems to be working quite well? You also mentioned an aging Von Miller. I'm going to give him a little bit of grace here as he returns from injury. It's kind of still miraculous that he's able to come back from that. Obviously had to do a lot of work to slim down and get back to the playing weight and rehab a pretty significant injury. So I know having to slow down on the defense, specifically in pass rush, is going to affect your team. But Josh Allen has just typically not been able to get it done. Do you feel that's a fair wrap up there?
I mean, if you look at the other young, guys in the AFC, I mean, Tua is a little bit younger than him, and he is playing at a really high level. Mahomes has multiple Super Bowls and MVPs. Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. He hasn't, and that he needs that. He needs to at least get there. And look, I'm not saying Buffalo's not good enough to get there. They are. They are one of the top teams in the AFC. But there's just something about this team where he either has to do everything or, nothing happens. And when your offense is centered around Josh Allen doing 90% of the things, throwing the ball, running the ball, fourth downs, quarterback sneaks, you can't really run the football. They don't have a back that can just go get it. There's no Thurman Thomas on that team. That's a pretty easy indicator for good defenses to say, okay, well, we're just going to go beat the shit out of Josh Allen and Buffalo will lose. And honestly, if I'm Cincinnati, that's what I'm doing to him. I'm just going to go hit him as many times as possible, even if we get a flag, which you're going to get. I mean, the personal fouls last night against the quarterback were so infuriating, maybe not want to watch the goddamn game anymore. But too bad you landed on somebody too hard. I mean, it makes me angry. Josh Allen is 6'5", 240, but we can't touch him. Poor guy. Foo-foo football bullshit. But at the same time, I'm sure it'll be a competitive game. Just no one hit the quarterbacks too hard. They might get hurt.
It's just an interesting concept. You talk about Joe Burrow going down and being the necessity that the Bengals need in order to be successful. And I'm going to take a swing here right after I thank Tavon Cooper for jumping in the chat. I love the perspectives from both Matt and Bri. Great analysis and breakdowns. Thanks, Tavon. I appreciate you stopping by, especially commenting and interacting with the show. If you want to do so, jump in the chat. But I was going to take a dig because the idea is that the Jets are a contender if only they had a quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers were to come back in time, does that prove that he's just not able to lead the team to a championship run? It's an interesting concept. I don't want you to answer just now. I want you to think about it a little bit because we still have NFL games to break down. That brings me to the Jets versus the Chargers, which is the Monday Night Football game. I can see you shaking your head. I don't really care. But let's talk about that game in specific. The Chargers, not really active right now. Not a whole lot of information coming out of there. I don't follow the Chargers very closely because they don't scare me here in the AFC West. But as a Broncos fan, I know that's throwing rocks at glass houses or whatever the saying is. Who do you think wins this game, Jets or Chargers?
Look, the Chargers charger a lot. They did win on Sunday Night Football. Great game, by the way, on Sunday night. Chicago at LA. That's scheduling. It's almost as good as this week's Thursday. Carolina at Chicago. Wow, what a game. Look, the Jets going to the Chargers on Monday Night Football it'll be a good home game for the Jets because there's a lot of New York Jet fans in LA because it's transplant city. So people will show out to support. It'll be half and half. But I can't take Wilson over Herbert, even though the defense for the Jets is so good. The Chargers offense has some pieces. They're going to score 14 points, 17 points, something like that. I'll take the under in the game, whatever it is, but it's all on the defense. And if the Jets want to be a all-time great defense and win playing defense, and then it doesn't matter. Like the Ravens in 2001 with Tony Banks and Trent Dilfer and Elvis Gerback and shit. So, Elvis came the next year. There was just Trent and Tony, and those two are awful. So they're way worse than Wilson. So I think that if you want to be an all-time great defense, the Jets have the chance to prove it. But man, that's a hard ask. And unfortunately, this is probably a game that the Jets will drop. But I'd love for them to win. Obviously, I'm obviously going for my Jets, but unfortunately, I think the Chargers will probably take this at home. It'll be a tough game.
Justin Herbert's too inconsistent here. And honestly, for the first time that you're ever going to hear, I'm picking the Jets to win over the Chargers. I think it's going to be by at least, it's going to be by at least, it's going to be at least a touchdown. Why is because of the defense. The defense has been consistent. Justin Herbert and the Chargers have been fairly inconsistent. And I'm honestly going to put a lot of stock in what Zach Wilson is building there with the Jets. I just think the consistency is important. I think that they have a good chance here. There's a lot of talk of whether or not they're making an actual run at the playoffs. I'm going to hold your horses here, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole just yet. But I do think the Jets beat the Chargers here, and I think they're just the better team. They're the more consistent team.
Well, I think I might have to change my mind and go with you. If you're taking them, I can't take the Chargers. Fuck
you
the
have
Chargers.
To. It's,
yeah, no,
we've already listed now. We've already listed. I've already tallied it, and I've got the Matt's picks right here. He picked the Chargers to win over the Jets, and I'm tweeting it out to everyone who's watching.
Yeah, well, I also took the Jets, so let's go. Go Jets.
Air Teeth just said Bri just committed narrative blasphemy, telling the obvious truth about Herbert. Honestly, I'm here to tell a little bit of truth here on the 0 to 60 pod. That's what you get here. And if you're new and you're not already subscribed, you need to go ahead and do that. Also, like the stream. It helps us out. It makes me cry less later on. We got the Buffs versus the Beavers, but I want to first talk about the Broncos versus the bye with a little bit of the time that we have left. How do the Broncos win the bye week, you ask? I'm not quite sure. You got 10 days off. You're traveling to Buffalo. What exactly do you need to do at this point in order to be successful? You didn't trade anybody. Adam Schefter coming out and saying the Broncos were offered a 3rd and a 5th rounder for Jerry Jeudy. Matt, if Kansas City won last week, I think the Broncos make a couple of moves. I don't know why. That doesn't logically make sense to me. I don't think beating Kansas City on a lucky strike, although it was convincing, don't get me wrong, I just don't think one win is a streak. I don't think you're really proving anything at that point. But I'm not sad that they didn't move on. I wanted them to stand pat. I thought they would stand pat, and they ended up doing so. Did the Broncos make a mistake not getting a 3rd and 5th rounder?
Look, Jerry Jeudy's having a hell of a year. He's gotten a lot better. Maybe this is writing on the wall that they do want to try and extend him, but that's why I would trade him, because I don't think they will extend him. I think they'll let him go to free agency. So if you're going to let him go to free agency, a 3rd and a 5th, that's two potential draft picks. That's good. You can package those and move up, and that's heavy collateral in the NFL. Chase Young went for a 3rd. So I would have been pulling that trigger. And honestly, it makes me question who's in charge. Is Sean Payton in charge? George Payton in charge? Who made the decision not to take multiple draft picks for a guy that we're probably not going to re-sign, even if he is having a great year? So if Sean Payton's making the decisions, I'm going to think that they think they have a chance to make a run, and they're going to run with the team they got and deal with the offseason in the offseason, which is fine. If George Payton is making the decisions, I think that he thinks, well, if Jerry Jeudy has a solid year, we'll just re-sign him and keep him in Denver. And honestly, that would be the best route. I don't want to go invest more capital in the wide receiver position. I mean, it'd be nice to re-sign a draft pick. That'd be cool. I don't want the kid to leave. I want the kid to mature and be a great wide receiver that was drafted in the 1st round. That's what I want. So if he's going to do that, he's going to be consistent. And hopefully that's what the team saw. If they're not willing to give him up for 2 draft picks, then they must think they've got something. And if they finish strong and he's one of the reasons, and him and Russ have camaraderie, and Cortland and him can really play together, and that's the key, is they're not very good together on the field, although they have been recently. If all that can come together, then yeah, re-sign him and move forward, and we're good. But if they don't make the playoffs, or they're not in contention in the middle of December, I mean, this is going to be well, why didn't we get draft picks for this guy? Because he's not going to be coming back anyway. So that's a pretty sharp double-edged sword right there for the franchise.
It is, and I hate to move on, but there is sort of news that I didn't catch to start the show, which honestly, we probably should have been talking about the entire time. I'm going to throw it out to you, and I want to give shouts out to Hexted, who went ahead and asked the question that made me panic here in the background of the show to find out just exactly what he was talking about. From Brett McMurphy over at Action Network headquarters, Colorado quality control analyst Pat Shermer will take over play calling duties for Sean Lewis versus Oregon State.
What?
I just didn't know. Deion Sanders must elevate Shermer from an analyst to a full-time coach to be eligible to coach. Lewis will still signal the plays in, but it's unknown which assistant will be demoted to make room for Shermer's promotion. Shermer was an NFL offensive coordinator with 4 teams, obviously for the Denver Broncos, and a lot of people are asking for your comments right now. I want you to go ahead and give me a general idea of how you're feeling about this. I'm caught off guard. Guys, I try not to be on Twitter when I'm on this show. I get very distracted, and it looks like things are happening. Tavon looks excited, I think. What changes does this incorporate? And honestly, I'm a fan of Lewis and his decision-making, so I want to know why you think they're going with Shermer against Oregon State specifically.
Look, I am a fan of Lewis as well. I think he's a great coach. He was a great head coach at Kent State. Bringing him in was a good idea. He's done good work with Shedeur. But last week was a train wreck offensively, and Shedeur even played well, and it was a train wreck. So, look, Pat Shermer is going to bring – I guarantee you Pat's sitting in the back going, I know how to fix some of these problems, and they're not getting fixed. I was on DNVR Buffs yesterday talking about this at length and in depth. We posted a couple videos about it, but the protection issues. Pat Shermer knows professional protection. Not saying Coach O'Boyle doesn't and Coach Lewis doesn't, but they didn't adjust at halftime. So they didn't adjust to the radar looks. They didn't adjust to full turns. They didn't adjust to squeeze gaps. They couldn't shelf penetrators. And that goes on the offensive line coach, but it also goes on the offensive coordinator and the scheme and what they're doing. So this tells me that this didn't just happen today. This has happened. He's announcing it the day before they place Oregon State. If I'm Oregon State, knowing that coaching staff up there the way I do, because we talk constantly, they just bought body bags, by the way, 60equipment.com. That they are going to be sitting there going, oh my God, we're about to get TCU'd because we don't know what they're going to run. I would bet that they've had a new offensive system in all week. I wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur's under center. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fullback on the field, multiple tight ends, like professional pass protection, not just, trying to like – one of the things that I noticed the more I watch the UCLA tape is they're running play action looks out of the shotgun, but they can't run the football, which takes away from the bite of the second level to the line of scrimmage, which opens up the play action holes. And the offensive line is almost like run blocking, trying to pass block to give the sense that they're going after the defenders, and the defenders aren't reading the keys because they know we can't run the ball. So that is wasted motion and wasted movement and wasted time that Pat Shermer is probably going to cut out completely. I would guess the pocket's going to move. I would see multiple screens. I think Shedeur's the kind of guy where you could put a new system in 2 days and he'd be able to pick it up because he is – that kid is lightning fast when it comes to decision-making. If you protect 2, he's going to chop you up. This is a move to get a professional system in place to protect the quarterback that is a first-round draft pick. I personally love it. I love it. This is leadership, damn it. This is goddamn leadership. This is Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, saying, look, we have a problem, and I don't give a shit about egos. I don't care about your feelings. And if Shedeur was struggling, he would get benched. That's the way Coach Prime rolls. The offensive coordinator is struggling. We're not making good play calls. We're getting inside the red zone. We can't score. They were +4 on the road against UCLA and did not win the game. That's +4 means they had 4 turnovers to 0 turnovers and didn't win. In no time in my whole life playing football have we been +4 and we didn't beat the shit out of the people that we were playing. You're +4, you should win by 3 touchdowns. So all of that comes into the fact that they can't pass protect, because if you can't run the ball and you can't pass protect, but you have a quarterback that's puts you in position to be 4-4 at this point and leading the country in passing. Can you imagine what we could do if we could just simply run the football like a professional team runs the ball for 3.5 to 4 yards a clip, which is vertical, not lateral zone read bullshit with a quarterback who can't run the zone read and doesn't want to because he's a pocket passer. He emulates Tom Brady. You need to give him a Tom Brady type offense. And look, this just makes me even more fucking bullish on the Buffs this weekend because Oregon State is not going to know what is coming. This is Pat Schumer. They're going to what? They're going to go study Pat Schumer's offensive coordinating tape from the Broncos fucking 3 years ago and be like, oh, this is what they're going to do Saturday night. Look, Oregon State, we got you right where we want you, dog. Lock the gates on these fucking people. Pat Schumer, let's see what you got. As long as we're not practicing goddamn incompletions, I think that we might have a chance to actually do something here. For real, Shedeur Sanders is a professional quarterback. Like, you need to put him in a professional system. And the fact that Coach Prime is so bullish about, like, making decisions and doing, he is not a, oh, my God, what are people going to think about it? Or what are people going to say about it? Or, oh, my God, they might get offended. He just does. And whatever your opinion of it is, it don't mean shit. And that's the way I operate, man. And I love that shit. I love it. This is fucking leadership, and this is why he's him. Period.
Did you just mic drop on me? Bill Porterfield said the standard is the standard. Something had to change, and it's not going to. It's just not doing nothing, doing something. Obviously, I knew you'd be excited by that as soon as I started reading it. I had to read it here on air. But it proves exactly what your point is that Deion Sanders is not, or Coach Prime is not afraid to make those changes. And he's made the decision. And it didn't take till the end of the season to do so. And it wasn't, oh, we'll just ride it out for the rest of the time and make changes next season. It was, what do we do now to improve, to get better, to not drop more games, to not go in and just say, well, it is what it is, because I freaking hate that saying. And the changes have been made. We'll see how they pan out for Colorado. I like what you said, though. You're even more bullish on the Buffaloes now winning. Do you think that there is a consideration that you trust the process as a player? Have you ever had a interim coach have to come in or something very significant happen like this? Because to me, in my brain, it elicits an adverse reaction. There's a little bit of risk associated, but they've probably been practicing with Shermer at the helm for quite some time. Like you said, it's not like they made the decision today. They're just announcing it today. But do you think there's a comfortability in the offense now that these players know that there was a decision made to improve them to protect them, most importantly, as players? Is it a mindset shift at this point?
Well, look, we'll put this to bed on this. And look, we have Lawrence Vickers on the 2 p.m. show today, the great Lawrence Vickers, the CU fullback, NFL fullback. And we'll elaborate on all this because I want to get his perspective being in so many offensive systems in the NFL and whatnot. But Bri brings up a great point here, and that is the comfortable aspect of this and also the anxiety of change. I think the anxiety of change would be gone because will probably be welcomed, like a different way to do things to better fit our personnel. I think that Coach Lewis's system worked really well at the beginning of the season when people were trying to figure us out. You know, it obviously worked against USC when they made the comeback. They made some changes at halftime that facilitated that comeback. But when they refused to make changes at halftime against UCLA, and it wasn't just, we talked about this in the beginning of the week, that wasn't just Shedeur getting sacked. That was Shedeur getting punched in the face. He got his ass kicked in that game. And that's not just his coach, that's his dad. So to think that we're not going to make changes that are based around better fitting our personnel, even if we think we can't run the football. I did watch them line up in heavy personnel against TCU and smash them in the fucking face multiple times in that game, move people and score touchdowns vertically and run the ball for over 100 yards. So I think that it's the scheme and the inability for the front five to block power five defensive linemen. This scheme works really good when you're in the MAC because the MAC defensive linemen are not UCLA standard. So they're not going to win as many one-on-ones. Like the MAC defensive linemen and the MAC offensive linemen are probably the same guys. One of them just plays defense and one of them plays offense. the Colorado offensive lineman and the UCLA defensive lineman or the Oregon State defensive lineman or Oregon or SC, they are not the same. We're all equal, but we are not the fucking same. So Power 5 Division I defensive linemen and NFL defensive linemen are better athletes than offensive linemen. And I know this because I'm a Power 5 NFL defensive lineman that got moved to offense. So I'm telling you, when you become with the same, like when I got to the NFL, the offensive linemen were as athletic as I was and as fast as I was. I had a massive advantage in college. I had no advantage in the NFL. That's why I got moved. You got to understand that the scheme is conducive towards winning matchups outside one-on-one in a spread system. Well, now all the athletes are equal, and your offensive line can't block the other guys when you put them one-on-one in radar situations like they did last week. So I know this is the show's going a little longer than expected, but this is big time news, and I love this move. It shows the ability to lead, not the ability to compromise. Leaders are not in the position to sit around and fucking guess and compromise and make, oh my God, how is this going to affect my employees or nah, I'm a bottom line guy. Like if it ain't working, that shit's gone. And I don't give a fuck about feelings. And Coach Sanders just pretty much said, look, this shit ain't working. It's changing right now so we can go to a bowl game and we can win some football games because our talent is not being maximized right now. It's being relied on. And damn it, that is fucking leadership. And this is why Deion Sanders is him, son. Go Buffs.
Sorry, I got distracted because I was trying to make sure I got the link out to everybody. There's still people joining in here, so I'm sorry that we aren't talking about this for a longer time. We were kind of sidetracked by this information and surprised by it. So if you want to continue to hear more of Matt talking about this, please tune in at 2 p.m. He will be doing a second show in order to talk more about what this means for the program. Additionally, give some more insight. Tweet at us and we'll go ahead and try to have some conversation over there, or at least I will. Matt doesn't always read the replies, but rewind back.
Read the replies.
I was trying to save you some grace there. I read the replies, so I'll go in there and I'll try to get a response out of him. But if you need to rewind back, we did talk about this for like the last 11 minutes. This is big news, right? Legal Side Hustles, which I love that name, says Matt is that guy. And on that note, I'll end it here. Subscribe, like the stream, rewind back if you want to watch the Colorado Buffaloes talk after we found out that Pat Shurmur is taking over play calling duties. We got to get out of here. We've gone too long. We must leave. But tune in at 2 p.m. Set your reminder on your phone and get a notification up, and we'll talk at you soon. We'll be back on Monday for another episode of the Top 6 here on 0 to 60. Bri Maestas, Matt McChesney. We're out of here. Anything else, Matt?
Lawrence Dickers, baby, this afternoon. Me and LV on the show is like control chaos, 2 fucking pit bulls chasing a laser pointer. Shit's going to be awesome. LV, Big Matt, let's fucking go. Go Buffs, baby! Woo!
Go Buffs.